Hey guys, good evening. It's Thursday night, 7:30. It's time for a little bit of TC Talks. Joined in the studio tonight by my good little lad, our Niall.
Hey, how's it going? You alright?
We've got on the decks as always and controlling everything, Richard.
Good evening.
So tonight we're going to lift it up a little bit. We've decided that we've had 2 tough weeks. We've talked about addiction on the first week, and last week we talked about depression. And I think last week was really a tough session to go through. So this week we're going to talk about inspiration. We're going to try and lift it up a little bit. We're going to be inspirational, try and talk about where you can get some inspiration. But we're going to start it off with what I think is the most inspirational track ever. I'll let you decide whether I've made it right or wrong, so let me know on Facebook. But this, for me, is the best track ever when it comes to inspiration. Eye of the Tiger. Okay, so we're in agreement. Was that the most inspirational tune you've ever heard?
You can't help but think you're in them steps in Philadelphia.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
If you've seen Rocky, you'll feel it. It's
definitely fantastic. It's just brings back so many memories of watching Rocky and seeing him training. And I think it's the underdog. Certainly when it comes to inspiration, you always go for the underdog, don't you? But let's just talk about inspiration. I've just Googled it to see the definition of the word because we talk about this word inspiration all the time, and sometimes we get it mixed up with motivation. Mm-hmm. Inspiration is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. So I think that's very important. That mental stimulation, and it's for me, it's where do we get that mental stimulation from? What form does it take? And why do we need it? Why do we need inspiration? I spoke to a guy a few months ago, and I was telling him about different things about inspiration. And he went, "What do you need inspiring for? You get up, you go to work, you do your work, you come home, you have your tea, you watch TV, you go to bed, and then you repeat the process until you die." Now, I was a bit disappointed that was his view of life, but that was his way of thinking. So, and there are people out there that don't go for this thing, inspiration. So, what do you think inspiration is now?
Inspiration to me would, if anything, be more of like the confirmation that your motivations are coming true. Like say, for example, the way that Rocky, and we were on about, Eye of the Tiger, really. I think I'll use a Rocky Balboa analogy for this.
Because Rocky's real.
Oh yeah, Rocky's real, definitely. But the way that Rocky is, still, he's got the fuel in him. You can see it all the way at the start of the film. You can see him all the way through. He's got the motivation to do it. He believes in himself. He's got everything for it. No, it's just no one's told him that he can. And I think that inspiration is the figurehead of that. It's the person that tells you or gives you a bit of clarity in that you can do it. It is possible. It is there.
Let's stick on Rocky then, because, and sorry if you haven't seen the movie, and if you haven't seen the movie and you're over a certain age,
where have you been?
You're a disgrace. Sort yourself out. Get yourself down to CEX and buy the box set. I'll lend it to you because it's a fantastic box set. But in that movie, would it be Mickey?
Yes, Mickey.
Would Mickey be the inspirational figure?
Yeah,
definitely. He's the one that's so you said earlier on when we talked off air about motivation being the fuel, or is inspiration being the fuel?
Motivation is the fuel. So I was saying it earlier as motivation is the thing that is inside us, really. Everyone. It's inside everyone, really. It's just that no one seems to unlock it at the right time, and it's there. It's that desire. It's that fuel to get going somewhere, get doing something. It's just that you have to unlock it in a certain way, and that's where inspiration comes in, because the people that inspire are the ones who unlock it for you, in a sense.
Well, that's a question then on Facebook tonight then. Is there anything that you'd really like to do, that you're motivated to do, but you just can't make that final step? You need that inspiration to go and do something. So if there is something that you think you're capable of, you believe in yourself, but you just need that little bit more, a little bit of inspiration to go and do it. Let us know what that thing is that you're wanting to do, but are struggling to find that last bit of inspiration. Because as Niall said, if you've already got the motivation, if you've got the fuel, you just need that ignition. It's and that's the thing. It's I think when we talk about fuel, if you think about fuel, if you spill fuel all over the floor. This was explained on a podcast by a guy called Guru Singh. Good guy to listen to. He's a really spiritual guy.
I've listened to him.
And he talks about fuel. He says, if you spill fuel all over the floor and you light it, it'll light for a certain period of time, and then it'll just burn off. There'll be nothing productive from that fuel. If you put the same fuel into an engine and then ignite it, it can propel your car for 40, 50, 60, 70 miles at 100 miles an hour. And put that fuel in the right body, channel it properly, and ignite it properly. All of a sudden, you can move it forward. So I think that's what we're trying to get at tonight. I think inspiration. And I think thanks for explaining it for me now, because I should know this stuff, because allegedly I'm an inspirational speaker, so I should know all this stuff. But that's a fantastic way of putting it. That the motivation's your fuel. You just need the ignition. And for me, that's pretty much put where inspiration could be.
I think you're just being modest.
Who's being modest?
Yeah, I'm an inspirational speaker. I don't know what inspiration is. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, Andy Deaton is put. Hi, Andy.
Yeah,
Nice,
Andy. Good lad, isn't he?
is inspiration the carrot at the end of the stick?
Well, that's the ignition, isn't it? That could be the thing that's forcing you through to go and do things. Now, Andy's an inspirational guy himself, because Andy, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, Andy has gone through a real transformational journey, and he had the motivation. He just needed the fuel for it, and he found it through cycling, and he got inspired to cycle, and he went from, sorry Andy, I don't remember the exact figures, but I know he's lost about 7 or 8 stone in weight. He cycles like ridiculous amount of miles every week now, 200, 300, 400 miles a week. He's ridiculous the amount of miles he does. So Andy Deaton is a phenomenal figure now, and a real inspiration to a lot of people around the cycling community. So for me, that the carrot, does it have to be the carrot?
For inspiration, yeah, because like I said previously, it's more the thing that would ignite, like you say, ignite the motivation inside you to push you forward and keep moving. So really, I think the carrot is that view of clarity. You know, that it's there, it's attainable, it's something you can get.
Is your wage packet inspirational then?
Well,
now we're getting into it.
Oh.
Is your wage packet inspirational?
Yeah.
Are you inspired to go to work in the morning? Because I'll be honest with you, I've been out to work today, and anyone that knows me knows I don't work. I try to work as little as I can. And when it comes to that, getting up early and doing stuff, I try and do stuff to suit me. But I got up today, I went out to work, and I met a guy that I was working with who, if he's motivated by money, there's something, you know, it's not working.
There's a difference between motivation and inspiration.
Inspired by money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more to
So
do
are you
with-
inspired or motivated by money? Is money is money the fuel, the motivation?
Well, for me, money is a means to an end, and it's a necessity.
Mhm.
It doesn't inspire me. Money doesn't inspire me.
Well, yeah.
No, that in my opinion. Andy, sorry to interrupt. And on it, he's just put, no way, mate. You are my inspiration.
You're too kind, Andy. You're too kind, brother.
Sorry, carry on anyway. But
but when you think about it, think about people who run marathons for charities. So the running of a marathon is a big thing. Is the inspiration though the raising of the funds? So we're talking about that fuel is already there to run the marathon. Is the inspiration to raise funds?
well, as I've mentioned to you, me and my wife Marie were heavily involved with a charity called the Samantha Sykes Foundation.
Yeah.
And the inspiration behind that is after Sammy was murdered, it all came out what Sammy had been doing for a friend who had been looked after children, and she reported it and she challenged the authorities. For me, that's somebody who's against the odds, inspires, and sort of moving on from that, where, you know, in my honest opinion, it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction setting up the charity, but we've helped over 100 young adults through further education. We've helped one achieve the Masters, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
That's a great feeling.
So are you inspired by raising the funds, or are you inspired by the people going to further education?
The latter inspires me. Yeah. It goes hand in glove. You need both. But talk about people that inspire you. Ben, who was Sammy's brother, at the time, Simon was murdered on the Friday, and Ben was starting his A-levels on the Monday, and Eric took him in to sort of see if there's any way that they could get a bit of compassion, or unfortunately there was no.
Yeah.
And he's gone through all of that, and he's now a junior doctor.
No,
And you
fantastic.
talk. I'd love you to meet Ben, and I want to get him on the show. But he's now as a junior doctor, he's actually grafting. So, but that lad absolutely inspires me.
Well, that's fantastic here, and that's again. So that from his inspiration, he's able to allow you to set up a foundation to raise the funds. But going back, I want to go back to the money thing. I don't think we've done the money thing. Are we really going to be? Are we motivated or inspired by money?
If you're asking for my view of it, I think from what I've seen of people in general and what about motivations and inspirations. I think money, in some circumstances, is a necessity that people are desperate to get.
Let me change. Sorry to interrupt, Niall. Neil, nearly called you Neil.
Oh wow, excellent.
Sorry, I know it's my son. You've only been my son for 19 years.
Yeah, no, you're all right.
20 years. He was 20 last week as well. I've got his age wrong as well. Look, listen, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to change the question. Are we inspired by people who have money?
Ooh, well, that depends on the person you are, really. I think ego is a big thing in that. Ego is something that plays into that too, because ego is something that plays into the obtaining of money. I think plays into the ego, which if you're inspired by people with broader egos, you tend to find yourself reflecting that, because that is success to you. You see the success in someone with a grandiose ego and someone who is, like larger than life. You get attached to that, and people that see success often emulate success, so they become that, and I think that changes a person. But yeah, I think so.
I believe that I'm seeing more and more people, certainly on the inspirational speaking circuit. You can't be an inspirational speaker, a successful inspirational speaker, unless you made £1 million. Rags to riches, business tale, that sort of stuff. Certainly in the business community, you can be a speaker, but to be at the top end, you've had to have run a business and been a successful businessman and turned your life around financially. Doesn't matter what you've done anywhere else. So I think there is a big focus towards inspirational people being financially successful. And I think that might be somewhere where we're getting it a little bit wrong. Because you just said there about Ben being a junior doctor, he is not financially successful in any stretch of the imagination. The student debt alone will cripple him for years to come. But he's still an inspiring figure. And I know lots of people who are not financially there, but are still really inspirational people. We'll come on to talk about those individuals later. But it's interesting though, the guy that I've put top of my list on the top 5 gurus is extremely wealthy. So maybe we are inspired, or maybe I'm inspired by people who are financially successful. Maybe that says something about my ego.
Marie said on Facebook Live, money is not inspirational. I'd like you to expand on that, Marie. Why in your opinion?
But are people with money inspirational? So footballers, a lot of people say footballers are inspirational, that they inspire our kids to do this, that and the other. Is it because they drive around in Bentleys, or is it because they're actually good at the community? Are they good at the community stuff? Because I don't think that there's many Premiership footballers who are actually out there on a night time, walking around the local communities going, look lads, let's go and have a kickabout in the floodlights around there. You know what I mean? So are they being inspirational just because they've got money and being successful financially, or is it because they are actually an inspiration to the younger community?
Marie's also said, is money an indicator of success then?
Oh yeah, well that might be a different show, because I certainly do believe
that is a brilliant question.
We do think that society has gone down that road. We do definitely think that success, money equals success.
I think if I'd have ever put an example to money being inspirational, I think I'd have to bring up LeBron James. I don't know if you know what LeBron James has done recently. He's opened up some schools. He's funded his own schools and not privatized it, but he's made it public for struggling kids who need educations. And I think inspiration can often come from what people do with money when they get it. Because sure, the road to getting money is one thing, and that sometimes can be inspiring. You look at anyone like Jay-Z or Henry Ford, anyone like that. What they do to get there is inspiring, but sometimes it's people what they do with it.
What they do with it, I get that.
Andy said also, inspiration by money is shallow. Yes, you need money, but to inspire, acts and feats are inspirational.
So it's exactly what Niall's just saying.
Yeah, I have to agree on that.
The journey's okay. The journey's inspirational. When you get to the top, though, like LeBron James, it's what are you going to do when you get to the top? Andrew Carnegie, we see the Carnegie Libraries all over the place. He left a legacy. He tried to push some of that money back into things. He wasn't particularly a nice fella during his business days, but
a lot of them aren't, though, are they?
No, but he certainly pumped stuff back into the community after as a legacy. So I think you're right. It's the journey's inspirational to get to the top, especially if you've come from nothing. But it's what you do once you get there.
What about the tragic events at Leicester? The chairman there and the amount of work that he's done for that local community, the hospitals. Yes, the money, but he's invested in not just the club, but the individuals and the people around it. And that, for me, I think that's inspiration.
And I think when you see the tributes pouring in for him and the people coming out on the streets for a director of a football club or an owner of a football club, where most people are a bit sceptical of these guys who run football clubs, I would be interested to see if people turned out for Roman Abramovich as much as they would do for this guy. This guy looked as though, and I don't know much about Leicester City Football Club, but he looked as though he was a genuine, real deal. I want to help Leicester as a city and help the local community, and he ploughed loads of money into the local charities. So for me, yes, that in that instance, it's what he did with the money once he got to the top. So yeah, I think we've covered that. Good stuff. We're going to stop for a record. We're going to go for another inspirational person, if you believe what everyone says, a bit of David Bowie, Heroes.
I will be king. Will drive them away. We can beat them just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day. And you can be me. Drink all the time, 'cause we're lovers, and that is a fact. Yes, we're lovers, and that is that. Though nothing will keep us together, still time, just for one day. We can be heroes forever and ever. What you say? Dolphins can swim. Though nothing will keep us together, we can beat them forever and ever. Oh, we can be heroes just for one day.
keep everyone happy from my generation. There you go, and the younger generation, I believe. Do you like it, Powie? No?
Yeah. I mean,
You
personally,
didn't convince me.
personally not so much, but I can respect what he's done.
Yeah, he's good. I once heard a story of him. There was a water burst outside his house in New York, and the lads were out, the water crew were out digging the hole, and Bowie apparently came out of his apartment and rolled up his sleeves and jumped down in the hole with the boys and started digging out the water men, and helping the boys. And I'm thinking to myself, so talking about inspiration, that's pretty cool, isn't that? Don't know if that's inspirational, just pretty cool to be digging a hole and having David Bowie at the side of you. So maybe that's just an Irish thing. There you go. So this part, I want to talk about inspirational moments in our lives. Because we've talked about what we think it is. And I think it's also a moment in your life where you've taken some inspiration from someone or something that's happening and you take a different direction. So I want to share something that happened to me fair distance into my recovery. It was 2011. 2012 this happened. Yeah, 2012. October 2012. There's a thing called Red Bull Stratos. For those of you who don't know, Red Bull Stratos was a guy called Felix Baumgartner who was going to get up in a hot air balloon to the edge of space and get right to the edge of space in a space capsule, and he was going to jump out and he was going to free fall. And it was live streamed, and back in 2012 nothing was live streamed. It was a very rare occurrence, and I decided I was going to, I'm going to watch this. So we decided we'd go and watch it. I asked Orla if she wanted to watch it, and I'm thinking she doesn't want to watch a live stream of somebody got up in a hot air balloon. But she said, yeah, Dad, I'll watch it. So she sat on my lap, and we started watching this thing online. And I'm thinking to myself, this is really dull. And I mean it, seriously. If you remember, it was so dull. For the first 2 hours, this thing just literally was a balloon going up in the air. It was like watching, the kid comes out of McDonald's, and the balloon, he lets the balloon go, and it just drifts off into the air. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we'll stick with it. And it kept going up, and as the altitude went higher, I could feel Orla's heart going a little bit, starting to pump a little bit harder on her chest. I'm thinking, maybe she's saying something I'm not. And I think she knew that something special was going to happen. And I suppose kids can sense something. And I wasn't seeing it. And the capsule got up, and the capsule door opened, and I'll never forget it. The capsule door opened, and I could see the world from a different perspective. I don't know if you get a chance tonight, just Google the images from Red Bull Stratos. And as they opened the capsule door, the world looked absolutely fantastic, and it looked like you could conquer it. It looked like it was, I can conquer this. And Felix stood up there and he said, sometimes you have to be up this high to realise how small you really are. And it was just like, Orla's heart was pumping out of her chest. My heart was pumping out of her chest by this stage. And then he jumped. Now this was the part where it was a little bit dodgy, because you didn't know whether we were going to watch a live suicide, because nobody knew he was going to stick the landing. So I'm looking at him thinking, and he went into a flat spin.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah,
I was
like,
what's going on? What's happening? Anyway, as we all know, he managed to pull the chute. He successfully landed, and I was just in floods of emotion, floods of tears. And I think that's what inspiration can do to you sometimes. It can send you into a bit of a spin. And it got me to the point where I thought, do you know what? I need to do something else. I'd run across the Sahara Desert in 2010. I've been sat around with my Sahara Desert medal going, look at me, aren't I wonderful? And realised deep down that I hadn't done enough to satisfy my own potential. So as soon as he landed it, I opened the computer up, and I sent an email to a potential sponsor asking him to sponsor me for an event that I wanted to do. And I wrote down, and I'd never written this down before, I'd only ever said it once at a conference, and I wrote down, I want to run across the United States of America. And that moment was the moment that changed my life forever, because from that email, he sent me an email back on the Monday saying, yeah, we're going to do it. I never thought he'd do that. I had to explain that to Zoe. I'm going to run across America. When are you doing this? I don't know, but I've got a sponsor. But it changed the course of my life, just from that one moment of deciding to watch something, deciding to be in a certain place, deciding to switch on a computer, deciding to get interested in something and to actually, because here's the thing about inspiration, I think we get inspiration all around us every day and we miss it because we're too busy with our lives. And think yourselves today, guys, on the web tonight, think about something that's happened to you today that you think might have been inspirational and you missed it because you were too busy. Something your kids have said, something your partner said to you, something happened to you at work that could have been an inspiration for you to go and do something different with your life, and you've missed it because you were too busy. And for me, I was so pleased that day that I wasn't busy enough to miss that opportunity, and I took it. I stepped out, I'd had this guy's business card in my wallet for 2 years. I'd spoken at his conference 2 years earlier, and he's one of these guys who came to me and said, if you need any help, call me. And we never do we?
No.
We never call those people. Now you're going to learn this. Some people will hand you a business card and say, if you need any help, call me. And you will not call them because there's something in us that says, no, he doesn't really mean it. Well, this guy genuinely did mean it. And when he sent me the email back, we got the money. And as they say, the rest is history. Ran across the United States of America 2013 and changed the course of my life. Some say for the worse, some say for the better. I don't know, time will tell on that one. But moments in your life now that's changed your direction, can you think of any?
I mean, I feel like it's more difficult for me right now to think of an inspiring moment because, I'm only in the early stages of living. I'm 20, but it's still early days yet to find something, But I think for me generally, I'm inspired by what people do on the daily, around me. Everyone that is either going through something or anyone who is, stressing with work or, having to begrudge the same repetitive sort of lifestyle. I feel like I'm inspired by those people because some of them just do it without question. They just get on with it. They carry on. They don't let anything get in the way. And some of them even go beyond that and find the positives about that lifestyle. And I think I'm inspired by those people more than, than any celebrity that could come across me or anyone like that, because they've got nothing to gain otherwise. It's just their life.
Do you actively acknowledge those people?
Yes.
Do you physically acknowledge it yourself that you're inspired by them? Do you say that to yourself?
Yeah, I look around and I say to myself, I don't say it to myself, but I think about the people around me, and I think, well, it's so wonderful to be comfortable with being alive, when so many people aren't. And I think that's an inspiring thing for someone who's trying to find their way through, a younger side of life and trying to find a path to, at something more than that. I look around and say, well, if it ever came to the opportunity that I hadn't aimed for what I'd got and hadn't achieved it, I could find the comfort in it. I could find the positives because everyone around me does. And I think that's more inspiring than, any Rockefeller that comes through. Seeing a Yorkshire person come through and just, comfortably have a laugh about the life. I think that's more inspiring than anything.
And that's great to hear, because it's sometimes we've all seen him when we go to work in the morning. Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a bit of a business guy on Twitter and things like that, talks about he did a video one day in New York, and he put the camera on this guy, poor guy, didn't name the guy, couldn't see his face, so I think he'd done it well. He says, look at this guy here walking to work Monday morning, head down, slumped over, really doesn't like life at the minute. But what he said next really got to me. Gary Vaynerchuk says, this guy thinks he's coming back. This is it, brother. You've won the lottery. You were born a human. You could have been anything. You could have been a beetle. You could have been a snake. You could have been a spider. You could have been anything. You were born a human being. You won the lottery. And you're walking around with your head down thinking you're coming back. You're not. You need to do something with your life. So you saying that, Niall, is just it's exactly what Gary Vaynerchuk's saying. Is those people who get up every day, go to uni, don't moan about having to get 2 buses, don't moan about not having enough money for food. Just get on with it, because they know that they're going to get to another level. That it's not always going to be that way. You know, don't let a bad day be a bad life. And I think that's a very important thing to remember. And I keep saying that to myself sometimes, because there's some days when I walk around like the guy that Gary Vaynerchuk's pointed out, thinking that this is rubbish. But it's good to hear that that's a good place to find some inspiration. Just looking around at people and seeing what they're going through and how they're coping with life. It's good. What about yourself, Rich? Have you got any inspirational moments? I mean, you mentioned Ben.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really, obviously, really close to home. And I think as a family, Eric, Julie and Ben, they inspire me through something tragic, and I can't even begin to comprehend what that family have gone through.
Yeah.
To lose a loved one in such tragic circumstances, and to actually turn it around, and like Eric and Julie, I mean, Julie's far more forgiving than I would ever be. The individual who murdered both girls, I remember she was saying a question about what must he have gone through, because he was an asylum seeker from Afghanistan. What had he gone through for him to be like that? I can't really repeat what I said to her, but I didn't care. And
Yeah.
do you understand? But for her, that's inspiring, because the forgiveness.
Forgiveness is
Yeah,
inspiring.
I'm not saying that I can't speak for Julie, but I kind of not forgive what he did, but for her to say that, you know, I just think, wow.
I think forgiveness is probably as inspiring as anything. I think we talked about Nelson Mandela before. His forgiveness of the things that had happened to him whilst he was in prison, and his willingness to get everybody around the table and just to forgive, to allow other people to come into a room and forgive. And not to try people, not to send people to prison, but to sit around the table and say, this is what happened to me, and witness it. And if they wanted to offer forgiveness, they did, and if they didn't, that was fine as well. And I think, to me, forgiveness is pretty inspirational.
I think, forgiveness is inspirational, definitely. But like you're saying, that there's people around that table with Nelson Mandela who couldn't forgive.
Yeah.
But on the off stretch, there's like a little asterisk over that. Sure, it's a good thing to forgive, and obviously that's a great standpoint to have if you're strong enough to do that. But if you aren't strong enough to forgive, at least, you know, for the moment, try and understand. I think understanding is probably the closest you can get to forgiveness without forgiving. Because as long as you understand someone, and as long as you can, you know, speak to someone or even hear about someone and sort of say, I get that, or, you know, that rings true in a circumstance that they're in, I think empathy is as strong and as inspiring sometimes as forgiveness.
Yeah.
If you're struggling to forgive.
I know that Pope John Paul II, when he was shot, he asked to see the guy that shot him. He went to see him in prison, and basically said, look, I forgive you. You know, the guy shot him, you know what I mean? He nearly tried to kill him, but he still went into his room, into his cell, and said, I forgive you. Now, for me, that's quite inspirational. And those moments of where it changes direction in your life, because somebody who's lost somebody like that, to turn around and say about the murderer, I want to understand what you've been through, can actually change the direction of the murderer's life as well. That can inspire them to change direction and to go, do you know what, maybe I've been given, he'll never be given a second opportunity because he'll be in jail for the rest of his life, but he may well decide that he needs to educate himself. He might need to do something with his life whilst he's in prison. So her forgiveness could actually change direction of that person's life. And I think that's really important, and I think that's the power of forgiveness and inspiration. Is you can change the direction of somebody's life just by saying a couple of words, I forgive you. And I think that's pretty powerful stuff. I think it's really powerful stuff, that if you can change a person's direction in life just by saying those few words, I think it's definitely worth exploring. We're going to talk, if you have any inspirational moments in your life that's changed direction in your life, again, share them on Facebook. We want this to be as interactive as we can over the next few weeks and months and years, hopefully.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build up your trust, that you can share some stories with us that we can share with the rest of the world. that we can talk about, that we can analyse, and we can say what's going on. And remember, this isn't counselling. This is just our opinions of certain stuff. None of this is fact. We're not qualified scholars. We're not going to be saying that this is the truth. You need to listen to us. It's a talk. It's a conversation. It's about our opinions on certain things. Now, this segues us into the gurus, which I think we might stop for a song before we go to gurus.
Okay.
Shall we do some music before that? Yeah, have we got time to do some music?
Yeah,
we'll do some music. So this one, we're going to change it up a little bit. I've got a Jay-Z and Linkin Park encore.
Yeah. Thank you. Far too kind. Yeah. Ready? Can I get an encore? Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, make some noise. Get him, Jay. Who you know fresher than Ho? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lyrically at. Can none of y'all mirror me back? Yeah, hear me rap, it's like hand G rapping his prime. I'm young H.O., raps Grateful Dead. Back to take over the globe, now break bread. I'm in Boeing Jets, Global Express. Out the country, but the blueberries still connect. On the low, but the yacht got a triple deck. But when you young, what you expect? Yep. Grand opening, grand closing. Damn your manhole, crack the can open again. Who you gonna find open a hand with no pen? Just draw inspiration. So you gonna see you can't replace him with cheap imitation for these generations. Encore, do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, make some noise. Look what I made for you. Knew if I paid my dues, how will they pay you? When you first come in the game, they try to play you. Then you drop a couple of hits, look how they wait to you. From Marcy to Madison Square, to the only thing that matters is just a matter of years. As fate would have it, J status appears to be at an all-time high. Perfect time to say goodbye. When I come back like Jordan, we're in the 4-5. It ain't to play games with you, it's to aim at you. Probably maim you. If I owe you, I'm blowing you to smithereens. Except I take one for your team, and I need you to remember one thing. I came, I saw, I conquer. From record sales, sold out concerts. Shmup, you want this encore? I need you to scream till your lungs get sore.
Tired of being what you want me to be. Feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. Don't know what you're expecting of me, but under the pressure of walking in your shoes. Every step that I take is another mistake to you. Just caught in the undertow. And every second I waste is more than I can take. I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware. I'm becoming this. All I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. I've become so numb.
Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
I've become so numb.
So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. One last time, I need y'all to roll.
Absolutely love that. It's fantastic. I know I'm too old to love that, but I absolutely love that. It's a fantastic record. I call it a record as well. Nobody calls them records.
Yeah, like we're sticking vinyls on it then. Playing them through there.
Mixing going on here at Smile Radio. Want to cover where do you go for inspiration? Now, for me, I've been involved in this quite a bit over the last few years. I've done a lot of self-improvement. And I've tried to seek out more knowledge about how I can develop as a man, as a husband, as a father. And I think I'm getting it right. I'm certainly not the person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the person I was 10 years ago. So these things, for me, I think they work. Now, I went to... I've got a list of top 5 gurus and these are my 5 gurus who I would go to for knowledge. First one's a guy called Rich Roll, R-O-L-L. Wrote the book called Finding Ultra. He's a vegan athlete, runs a really successful podcast. Great guy to listen to. The thing I like about Rich Roll is he's so humble, and he brings other people into your world. So he goes out and seeks these gurus and brings them into his podcast show and shares that knowledge. And in his book Finding Ultra, he didn't start getting his stuff together till he was in his mid-30s, early 40s, and he's really kicked on from there. But he just showed me that it doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you do it. So Rich Roll, again, the Rich Roll podcast, not to turn people away from our podcast, but Rich Roll definitely is up there. Eric Thomas did a thing called Thank God It's Monday on Facebook and Twitter for a lot of years, and then he just took off. You know, he hit the stratosphere of the big speakers gigs. Eric Thomas is real. He's just a guy that grew up in Detroit, you know, struggled to get his degree, was homeless for a while, eating out of garbage cans, but kept at it and kept digging away. Knew he had a message to send out to the young people, and sent that message out to people. And he's now reaping the rewards from that. So he's gone from being a $500 speaker to being a $30,000 speaker. Now, does that make him successful because he's paying more? Possibly not. It just means that more people want to hear his stuff. So Eric Thomas, Robin Sharma, he wrote the book The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. I'd highly recommend that book for anyone who's doing any self-development. A really good book to get into. But Robin Sharma, what I like about him is he shares lots of free content on his YouTube channel. So there's lots of stuff to learn from Robin Sharma. Wayne Dyer, who's sadly no longer with us, a spiritual leader. Wayne Dyer's life is, I mean, I've actually got his autobiography, and it goes on for about 27 hours worth of audio, and it's deep, but he's had a wonderful life, or had a wonderful life. Some dark moments in there, but again, well worth listening to, because he goes very spiritual. He teaches you to listen to what's going on around you, to not miss the signals of inspiration. And finally, Tony Robbins. I think most people have heard of Tony Robbins now. On Netflix, there's a documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, called I'm Not Your Guru. I went to see Tony Robbins back in 2014 at his Unleash the Power Within, and I was stood there with 7,000 people at the XL Arena in London, and I'm looking around, and I was there with my arms folded saying, this isn't for me. All these Europeans jumping up and down and dancing and, you know, hollering and whooping and doing all this stuff, and I'm looking around, and after an hour I realised that I was the one that was missing out. There was 7,000 people who were having an absolutely fantastic time transforming their life, and I, through my ignorance and my stubbornness and my lack of knowledge of how these things worked, sat there with my arms folded until I finally caught myself on and went, do you know what, I'm going to let this go. Nobody knows me here, so I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to hug people when I need to hug them. I'm going to high five people when he tells me to. And after 4 days, and it was a 4-day conference, it was phenomenal, the changes that I felt. So Tony Robbins, again, if you're going to go onto YouTube, there's loads of stuff available on him, loads of audio, some cracking books, very powerful speaker. But go on the Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Guru. So they're my top 5 gurus. Now, we mentioned that, are they my gurus because they're successful and because they've got money? Definitely not. Rich Roll is just the most humble guy you'll ever meet. Now, he does live in a nice house in Malibu. Well, that's beside the point. Tony Robbins obviously is a multimillionaire, but again, we said earlier on, is what do you do with that? And he tells a story about the time when his father refused help at Thanksgiving. They were poor, they had no money for Thanksgiving, and his father refused help. And eventually Tony stepped in and said, Dad, stop being stupid. And he took this offer of food for Thanksgiving, and the very next day his dad walked out on them because he couldn't cope with the shame of not being able to provide for his family, of taking a handout. But from that, Tony Robbins learned a lesson, and as soon as he started becoming successful, he went out and handed out 1 meal at Thanksgiving. Then he handed out 2 meals, and he started getting more successful, and he handed out 5 meals, and he got his friends involved, and they started handing out meals. And I think it was last year he handed out something like 1 million meals at Thanksgiving. So it's what you do with it when you become successful, I think. And you mentioned that now, didn't you? Have you got any inspirational people that you want to share with us?
Well, personally, it comes from a lot of music that I listen to. I tend to find that messages portrayed in music and the people behind the music often are quite inspirational. So one of my personal inspirations is J. Cole, an artist in America who is probably the most humble rapper in the world. You think of being a rapper and being in the hip hop industry, it's one of the most successful industries in the world, probably the most successful industry, and it generates so much money, and the culture behind it is you reflect your success, which I think is what we talked about. Are people successful because of the money they make? People emulate that success in wearing expensive clothes, doing the most, really. But I liked J. Cole because I'm inspired by J. Cole because he rejects the idea of emulating your success through your appearance. He does it through action. So he lives in North Carolina in a place called the Ville. He references it as the Ville. But he rents out a home, his home that he grew up in when he was a teenager with his mum. He rents it out to single mothers because that was his circumstance when he was growing up and when he was on the struggle and when he was trying to make a name for himself. So it's almost that, the mirror image of helping someone get to that point, or maybe helping a potential artist or a potential person of inspiration to come through and have that chance. I think that's a really great thing for me personally, anyway.
I think that's the theme here tonight is turning around and helping others. I think that's where we're all getting to. The thread on this is that, when we're trying to be successful ourselves, it's every now and again to look behind us and go, who can I pull up with me? Who can I drag along in this journey that wants to come along in this journey, that needs a hand up, that needs some advice, that needs some help? What can we do? And it doesn't always have to be financial. It can be just answering a phone call. It could be just picking up the phone and ringing somebody. And I think sometimes that's as simple as it needs to be. So that gesture that he's of helping people with his old house is phenomenally powerful as well. That you can just be simple. You stay simple, stay humble, but still inspire. And that gives us all hope that we don't have to have the money. So I think we're getting to that point as well. We don't have to have the money. What about yourself, Richard? Any inspirational figures that you want to pick out? Not family?
No. We touched on it earlier about sort of Nelson Mandela, and I mean, through what he actually went through personally, and how he stuck to his guns and his principles, and is a better man than me, because I'd have probably wanted to react and fight fire with fire, and by almost being peaceful and forgiving and having peace within. And when you talk about forgiveness, we touched on forgiveness, and I just think that as an inspirational person, I just think, wow. I just that one person and what he did, 26 years, was it 27 years?
I think the quote from Lincoln was, how do you defeat your enemies? You make them your friend. And I think Mandela lived by that principle, and that he wanted to be friends with people. He wanted to understand what they were going through as well. I think understanding is a very powerful word as well. Understanding and forgiveness, understanding what other people are going through, because we've touched on it a couple of weeks ago when we talked about homeless people. We go through our lives judging people, judging them how they've ended up in a certain circumstance. Maybe if we all spun it around and instead of judging people, we started to understand them and started trying to do our own little bit of inspiration every day. How can we turn around and inspire somebody that needs inspiring, or offer some inspiration? And I think obviously it's leading by example. It's living our lives to our fullest, not doing what sometimes I do during my depressions, which is staying in bed all day, getting up and actually trying to live your life. And that will inspire the people around you. Hopefully it'll inspire Niall, my son, and Oliver and Orla and Mason, and inspire those people to do things. But also those on Facebook, because you can inspire people through Facebook and through Twitter and things like that, because we haven't really touched on social media.
It's a broad spectrum, social media, for inspiration. That's a nice segue as well. I was just about to jump in, but my friend Kenny, he messaged me earlier when I was asking for inspirational people or quotes, and gave me a YouTuber who I'm aware of but haven't investigated fully. But I did look at a couple of videos called Boy in a Band, and he uses YouTube as his platform to inspire, and basically he comments on the state of like education systems and stuff that aren't working out, or how faulty things can be, and the aims of promoting awareness of mental illness and stuff like that. And I think that social media doesn't get the credit it deserves for being as inspiring. I mean, Eric Thomas, I think he blew up because of social media.
100%.
Like
one video.
It's a huge fueler. It's a huge promoter that businesses are now using daily. Yeah. So
that video, how bad do you want it, on YouTube? That's an Eric Thomas video. That was the speech that was put to some images of a guy training, and that's what catapulted him from a $500 speaker to a $30,000 speaker. Just that viral video. That started to inspire people, and it really got them moving forward. And it is very powerful, social media. Obviously there's wolves dressed in sheep's clothing as well, so you've got to be careful sometimes on social media of who you take your advice from, because some of them are just after putting their hands in your pocket and taking the money out. Now Tony Robbins charges for his time. Robin Sharma charges for his time $50,000 a month. If you want to coach with Robin Sharma, $50,000 a month. So he doesn't want the likes of me or you now.
Yeah, no, maybe not.
I don't think we could stretch to 50, maybe 50 quid a month, possibly.
Yeah, no, possibly.
But even
that
would be a stretch. But he's willing to offer free advice as well via his YouTube channel. So I think that's very important to point that out. That yes, they are expensive if you want to work one-to-one, but these guys are willing to give out their information. There's one other guy that I want to mention, talking about social media, and I know we're running short on time, but a guy called Paul Mort. Now, Paul Mort is on Facebook. I'm not going to mention the name of his company because it's a swear word, Unstoppable something. But he's a men's coach, and he coaches loads of men. He helps them with social media, via social media. Suffered with bipolar in the past, but a great inspiration to a lot of men. Certainly in the northeast, and he's spreading throughout the country now. So Paul Mort, check him out as well. I want to finish with a couple of inspirational quotes. Come on then.
Ooh, well, I'm a huge writer myself and a huge Stephen King fan. So my quote, my one that I'm sticking to at the moment and reflecting on quite heavily, is "Get busy living or get busy dying."
Yes, love it. That's
fantastic.
I didn't realise it was Stephen King when you said that. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to use an Eric Thomas quote tonight. I haven't come this far to only come this far, which I like. And I think that's a powerful. And another one that got me through, which was from a woman who runs a gym in Salt Lake City, and she went, "Lesser people than you have done more difficult things than this." And it's simple. These aren't guys who are, iconic figures. That was just a woman in a gym who said that once. Lesser people than you have done more difficult things than this. And my last one, and I'll let you do some, Richard, but my last one was from a guy called Les. Les was an old guy who fought in Normandy. And he turned around to me when I told him I was running across America, and he says, "You're not getting shot at by the Germans, just get on with it." So that was as inspirational as I needed. Have you got any before we wrap it up?
No, I think we'll leave it on that one.
Guys, as always, it's been fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it. Talking about inspiration, we'll figure out what we're going to talk about next week. It does tend to come out over the weekend. We have a discussion about what we're going to talk about. We are going to finish with something that's on topic at the minute, certainly with Bohemian Rhapsody at the minute. This is We Are the Champions. See you next week.
Time after